All right. Question 13. I personally think, there's two ways to do this. There's a flashy way and a non-flashy way, and I'm just going to talk you through the non-flashy way. We're going to expand both the left-hand side of this thing, and we're going to expand the right-hand side of this thing, and we're going to show that they come to the same thing. There's two ways to set this out. You could literally write left-hand side, figure out what it comes to, right-hand side, figure it out what it comes to, and then show that they're the same thing. But I personally like to set them out next to each other and just work my way down. I'll show you what that's like. So we've got 1 minus, this is A. We've got 1 minus t squared plus 2t squared equals 1 plus t squared. Now I'm going to expand this one on the left. And don't forget, that's going to come out as 1 minus 2t squared plus t squared, which is t to the 4. And then I've also got this thing on the right, so that's 2 squared is 4, t squared is t squared. And then I shouldn't have written these equals. And on this side, that's 1 plus 2t squared plus t squared, which is t to the 4. Now on my left-hand side, I'm going to collect my like terms, this, and I'm going to end up with 1 plus 2t squared plus t to the 4, and on the right-hand side, that's what I've already got. So left-hand side equals right-hand side. Done. And B. Ooh, I like this question. So we've got cos x equals 1 minus t squared over 1 plus t squared. Now they've told us some things. They've told us that x is acute and t is positive. So what that means is, now you're not used to seeing an x here, but all that's telling us is that we're in this quadrant. Like, you can interchange x with theta, that's fine. So this is the angle we're trying to find. We've been told cos x, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's 1 take t squared as the adjacent and 1 plus t squared as the hypotenuse, yeah? So we've got adjacent over hypotenuse, yeah? We want to know sine x and tan x, which means we need to know the opposite. So just like all of these questions, we're going to use Pythagoras. I'm going to call it y. So we've got the hypotenuse squared, so 1 plus t squared equals, and then we've got the other two squares, so y squared plus 1 minus t squared. Okay. There's a reason they got us to do that first question. And that's because, we could do this the hard way. We could expand both sides left and right and subtract stuff and deal with that. But this 1 plus t squared is that. I'm going to replace it with the stuff in green in question 13a. So that's the same as 1 minus t squared plus 2t squared equals y squared plus 1 minus t squared. So that orange stuff does equal that green stuff. So that's that. I've been able to replace it with that. So that's from question 13a. I'm going to rewrite that and I'm going to start colour coding some stuff. So all I'm doing is rewriting 1 take t squared plus 2t squared equals y squared plus 1 minus t squared. We can get rid of anything that shows up on either side, i.e. that and that, because they're both added, which means 2t squared equals y squared, which means 2t equals y. So now finally we can find sine and tan, because sine, I hate the fact that they've used x not theta. It's opposite over hypotenuse, which gives us y, which was 2t. And the hypotenuse was 1 plus t squared. And tan x is opposite over adjacent, which in this case is y, so 2t over, and then the adjacent was 1 minus t squared. And that's as far as we can go with that. We could factorise that bottom, 1 take t, 1 plus t, that's not going to help us at all. Cool question. We didn't necessarily have to use the substitution 1 plus t squared all squared becomes 1 minus t squared squared plus 2t squared. Like, if you'd wanted, and I'm going to go through this, you don't have to watch this, you can stop watching now. If you'd wanted, we could have had, I'm going to steal this exact same line. I'm going to make it green. So we could have expanded both sides. So that's 1 plus 2t squared plus t to the 4 equals y squared plus 1 take 2t squared plus t to the 4. Gotten rid of everything that appeared both left and right. This actually might have been the quicker way to do it. So we've got 2t squared equals y squared take 2t squared. Get the t squareds on one side, so 2t squared plus 2t squared. 4t squared equals y squared, 2t equals y. That might have actually been the quickest way to do it. Wonder why they got us to do that first one. Maybe it was just to be fancy. I wouldn't